The year is 1824. The United States, still young, still raw, stands at a crossroads. The revolutionary generation has faded, and a new era of politics is dawning. But this election would be unlike any other. It would fracture the nation, expose the flaws in democracy itself, and leave one man, Andrew Jackson, burning with a fury that would reshape America forever. Imagine a country still finding its footing. Only 4 decades removed from revolution, the United States was expanding westward at a breakneck pace. The Missouri Compromise had just inflamed tensions over slavery. The political machines of old were crumbling, and for the first time in history, there was no clear heir to the presidency. The Founding Fathers had designed the Electoral College to prevent mob rule, but in 1824, that system would be tested like never before. 4 men, each brilliant, each ambitious, would vie for the highest office, but only one would emerge as the voice of the people, and yet he would be denied. John Quincy Adams, the brilliant but cold diplomat, son of a president. Henry Clay, the charismatic great compromiser, a master of backroom deals. William Crawford, the ailing Southern favorite, struck down by scandal and sickness. And then there was Jackson. Andrew Jackson was a force of nature, a war hero, a man of the people. To his supporters, he was the embodiment of the American frontier, rough, relentless, and unbreakable. To his enemies, a dangerous demagogue. And in 1824, he would win the popular vote, only to see the presidency slip through his fingers. But how? How could the man who won the hearts of the people lose the election? The answer lies in a tangled web of political betrayal, secret meetings, and a vote that would ignite a fire in Jackson's soul, one that would not be extinguished until he claimed the White House. This is the story of the most controversial election in American history, and it begins now. 4 men, 1 prize, and a nation watching in breathless anticipation. By 1824, the race for the presidency had become a battleground, not just of ideas, but of raw ambition, and in the shadows, alliances were forming and breaking. The old political order was dying. The Federalists had collapsed. The Democratic Republicans, once united, now splintered into factions, and into this chaos stepped 4 towering figures, each convinced Iggy Pascalins was the rightful leader of America. First, John Quincy Adams, the scholar, the diplomat, the son of a president, raised in the halls of power, fluent in 7 languages, a master of policy, but crippled by his own icy demeanor. To the elite, he was the natural choice. To the people, a relic of a bygone era. Then, Henry Clay, the great compromiser, silver-tongued, charming, a man who could bend Congress to his will with a single speech. He dreamed of an American system, roads, canals, a nation bound together by commerce. But his ambition was his greatest strength and his fatal flaw. William Crawford, the favorite of the South, a man once so powerful, his nomination seemed inevitable until scandal and a near-fatal stroke left his campaign in ruins. By election day, he was a ghost of a candidate, clinging to a hope he no longer controlled. And then there was Jackson, the general, the Lion of the West, a man who had clawed his way from poverty to glory. To the common farmer, the frontier settler, the soldier, Jackson was their champion, a living symbol of America's fighting spirit. The campaign was unlike anything America had seen. Jackson toured like a conquering hero, drawing thousands to his speeches. Adams wrote meticulous policy papers, appealing to reason, not passion. Clay worked the halls of Congress, trading favors like currency. And Crawford, his allies fought a desperate rearguard action, praying for a miracle. But when the votes were cast, the unthinkable happened. No candidate had a majority. For the first time in history, the decision would not be made by the people, but by the House of Representatives. And in those closed-door chambers, the fate of the Republic would be decided by whispers, not votes. What happened next would be called a corrupt bargain, a deal so infamous it would haunt American politics for decades. And Andrew Jackson would never forget December 1824. The halls of Congress were supposed to be a temple of democracy, but on this night, they became a den of secrets. The election was deadlocked, and now the decision lay in the hands of just one man. Henry Clay was out of the race, but he held the keys to the kingdom. As Speaker of the House, he controlled the vote, and he had a choice to make: crown the people's champion, or make a deal that would change history. What was said in that room. No one recorded it, but we know this. Clay and Adams spoke alone, and when they emerged, the course of America shifted forever. One by one, the states voted. New York, Adams. Kentucky, Adams. Missouri, Adams. The pattern was clear. The fix was in. And when the final tally was read, John Quincy Adams, the man who had won neither the popular vote nor the electoral majority, was declared president of the United States. The outcry was immediate. Jackson's supporters roared with fury. The people's will has been stolen, they cried. And then the hammer blow. 3 days later, Adams named Henry Clay his Secretary of State, the stepping stone to the presidency. Andrew Jackson did not speak a word when he heard the news. He simply turned, walked out into the cold night, and began plotting his revenge. He would bide his time, he would gather his forces, and in 4 years, he would unleash a political storm that would shatter the old order forever. The fight for America's soul had only just begun. 4 years, 4 long years of waiting. But now, on this raw March day, Andrew Jackson would take what the people had always said was his. The man who swore the oath that day was not the same fiery general of 1824. He was harder, colder, and utterly determined to burn the old system to the ground. They called it the People's Inauguration. The elites were horrified, but Jackson knew this chaos was democracy now. The revenge for 1824 wasn't just his. It belonged to every farmer, every blacksmith, every veteran who'd been told their voice didn't matter. Adams wasn't wrong. Jackson did break the system by inventing a new one. Patronage, party machines, the spoils system. He built an army not of soldiers, but of loyalists who would fight his battles in state houses and newspapers. This was the true legacy of 1824. Not just Jackson's rage, but the unshakable belief that the president must be the direct voice of the people. Even when that voice was brutal, even when it tore the nation apart, we still live in Jackson's America. The America where elections are wars, where populism clashes with institutions, where every corrupt bargain whispered about today echoes that winter night in 1824. The people got their revenge. But the cost is written in every scar this nation still bears.